Welcome to If the Public Only Knew, the show that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build and lead a business. Host Gary Cinderbrandt sits down with some of today's most dynamic CEOs, founders, and leaders to dig into their origin stories, hard-earned lessons, and the missteps that nearly derailed it all. These are unfiltered, no-hype conversations designed to inspire, challenge, and fuel your own journey. Now here's your host, Gary Cinderbrandt.
Welcome back to If the Public Only Knew. I'm your host, Gary Cinderbrandt. And today, we're joined by someone I'm really excited to talk to, Laurie Battaglia, CEO of Aligned at Work, an executive coaching firm. As I continue to do these podcasts, I'm constantly amazed at how many people find their level of success to be far greater later in life, when for some rationale or series of events, an entrepreneurial spirit is kindled. Now, you've heard me say in the past, as a financial advisor, early on, desperation and entrepreneurship are exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that spirit, you just don't make it as an FA. What I really love is when I can have a conversation with someone that kind of came at it from the other direction, the corporate world, where things were very finite, where things were very defined, and you had things you had to complete. And now, Laurie, as I understand it, you're working much more with the inside of people's heads, as opposed to them checking boxes and filling forms. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Gary.
So, Laurie, I know you worked at Vanguard for a while, primarily, and Wells Fargo, I believe, and it was pretty much in training.
Yes.
At that time that you were doing this, did you know there was something else out there ahead for you? Or were you satisfied with where you were? Or was there a niche that was emerging?
That last 17 years when I was at Vanguard and then Wells Fargo was actually biding my time until I could launch my business. But you and I have been in finance our whole lives. I spent 20 years in savings and loans in the Philadelphia area. And it was during the takeover of the second one when the government moved in that I said to myself, there has to be a better way. I've worked for organizations that focused all on people. I've worked for the ones that focused all on profit, and neither one of them got it quite right. And when I was at that smaller 250 person savings and loan, it was in the days in the early 90s when a lot of tiny savings and loans, the ones I've also worked at that had less than 100 people, had to adopt new regulations and things like that. And I was asked, hey, you're all in this together, kind of, we're taking you over and you're going to be sold. However, and I realized there was probably a niche there for small organizations that did not have a trainer on staff, couldn't afford to have a trainer on staff full time, for me to go in and do training. And that's where the idea was formed. Now, interestingly, at Home Unity, the one that I worked for, they told us to get ready to be sold and to re-interview for our jobs. And that's where I started writing resumes, helping people figure out how to position themselves. I didn't know what I was doing at that point, but I got all the books and I learned all the things about writing resumes and things. And I still do that for people. I have a better format now, but not a lot different than it was then, because it doesn't really need to be. So that's where the seed was born. It had to germinate for 22 years. And I had to get through all my business fears of launching and not having income coming in.
When you were doing this, did you have kind of a second voice in your head? Like you would look at a certain issue and you say, there's so many better ways to do
Oh my God, yes.
what they're doing right now, and I should really do something. Because I don't think it was 22 years and then you hit that fulcrum and all of a sudden your next life. It had to be building up over time.
It was. And I was training myself and I was thinking about, like, what would that look like if I did it on my own? And what am I getting out of this job right now? Because when you know that ultimately you're going somewhere else and you're not looking to like climb that organization anymore, it's a really different time. And it feels very strange when you're always used to being an achiever and working your way up to the next level and up to the next level. It's a really different kind of thing. So you're right. It's a pathway to it. And I would tell you that all the things that I did to learn about how do you launch a business and how do you keep it running and all that, yeah, it was a great background, but business is not like that anymore.
No, it's
And
not.
it's just so different. And if you're like anti-technology or want to do things the old ways, just don't bother. Just don't even get into it.
I imagine you run into that quite a bit, especially with some of the embedded corporate cultures you're working with,
Yes.
where change would be great for the organization, but there's just this organizational inertia.
Yes.
Backing up just for a minute, because I do want to talk about that. When you made this move to go
Yeah.
out on your own, was there a particular event that triggered it, or was
No.
there a plan?
No, there was always a plan, but there was always a reason I didn't do it. Like at first, my first marriage was going under. So I couldn't do it then. And then I was single, so I couldn't do it then. And then I met the love of my life, Joe, my favorite husband, the one I'm married to now. And when I met Joe, Joe had four wedding presents in the form of children going into college. And I was like, well,
Okay.
can't do it now. And then we were going to move to Arizona from Pennsylvania. So there was always a reason. And then ultimately, when I really thought I was going to jump, I was really scared because my husband was approaching retirement age at that point. And I thought, this is no, and we were at the bottom of the recession. And I thought, this is no time for me to jump now and burn through the retirement money. I can't make it up again. And who knows when this recession is going to come out of it. So that's when I ultimately went to Wells Fargo for the last 4 years of my career and knew that ultimately I would do it. What I had a plan to get out in 2016. I accelerated the plan by 1 year because my mother passed away and
Oh,
left me
okay.
enough money to live on for a year.
Okay.
And so that was my soft cushion without burning through the retirement money. That was my soft cushion. Now, it takes more than a year, or at least it did me. It took me more than a year to get my business really going. But that was the ultimate thing. When they say, "Oh, you'll know when," I would sit with tears in my eyes and say, I have known when so many times. And I could not do it because I could not buy, I'm very responsible and I could not pull the trigger on possibly spending through the money that we had worked so hard to
Sure.
put away.
Now, looking back from where you are now,
Yeah.
what's the biggest reality versus what your expectation was before you did it?
That it really takes you a longer time to get this thing going than you think it will. And because I think what a lot of people think, I did go to coach school and I did get certified and all those things back in 2010 and 11, bridged those years. I had a master's degree. I am a put yourself through school while you work person because I was a 17-year-old mom.
Okay.
So I didn't really start my degrees till later in life, and I'm, work and learn at the same time kind of person. When I did the coaching thing, where was I going to go with that? We might have to cut this part. Something about the coaching that I was going to talk about.
So we were talking about the difference between your expectations before you made the jump and
Yes,
then what the reality of it was. And you were describing how it always takes longer than you think. But once you
yes,
make the jump, it's not like you can go back.
right, right. So So when I was in coaching school, I thought what was going to happen was that my husband and he decided to go with me. You could take a friend for free to part one. And we both decided to certify, came out the other end. And what you're always told is, well, ultimately you'll sell enough that it'll just take the place of your six-figure corporate salary. And then you can get out and you can just transition out because you'll be so busy. Or maybe your company you're working at will hire you as a contractor. None of that happened for me. So there I am at 59. I'm like, it is now or never. And I went and started and just slogged my way through. I found a business coach that I've been working with off and on ever since, out of Boca Raton, a company
Mhm.
that's now called Bold House. And they teach you how to get a foot in the door to corporate. And it's based on forming long-term relationships and trust, much like I'm sure it is in your business as well. It's not a fly-by-night manipulate people into your funnel and you'll be magically rich, which doesn't really work. because I think people are smarter than that. Corporate people are definitely smarter than that. And they decide these days by committee. So you've got to have the relationship building skills and look at it as a really long-term leap instead of like, oh, let's get the next one. You lay the groundwork for some of these relationships for years,
Yeah.
and sometimes you don't know you're laying that groundwork. I've gotten gigs out of being in breakout rooms during COVID with people who hit it off with me, and I didn't even know it until later. They referred me either into their own business or somebody else's.
What was your first real client experience like when you got that? Tell me about that.
Well, it was scary as heck. I was actually subcontracting under somebody and was asked if I would create a leadership program for them, and I did. And I retained the intellectual property for that, and it formed the foundation of our aligned leader
Hmm,
program. And
interesting.
I was sweating bullets. I was like, what if this doesn't land? If this lands, this is more money than I've ever made. Now that would be a medium-sized contract for me, but this will be, more than I've ever made, and I can't believe it's happening. And what if it doesn't? What if it falls through? And what blah, 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 blah. Am I really worth this much? And it worked out just fine. And I was able to retain the IP and train the trainer in there. And we thought we were going to hand it off to that company and they were going to take it and run with it. And they said, you push us further than we would push ourselves.
Sure.
So why don't we partner us and you?
Yeah.
And so I still work with them over the
I
years.
noticed in a number of your offerings on your website, it's not one and done. You've got
Oh,
follow up,
no.
you've got length of time. You
Oh,
have the
yeah.
thing I discovered pretty early when I was teaching. If you don't have accountability, nothing changes.
Right. Exactly.
And you've got
We
to have
try to
accountability
build
in
it
front
in.
of a peer group.
Yes, yes. And we've started doing a lot more measurement. Like we measured that leadership program. But when I did it, I hired a company to do it and work with me. And I learned a lot from that process of how you have to build things in measurable from the beginning. Otherwise, you're kind of swimming upstream. So we measure before and we measure after so people actually have the metrics to say, like, did it make a difference?
How
And
did you quantify? I mean, I can see where you would be
yeah.
doing it from a qualitative standpoint, but how do you quantify that?
Yeah. We try to get to the business results thereafter.
Okay.
So and that's hard when you're talking things like culture or, what it feels like to work there. But there's been so many good companies out there that do surveys of employee engagement and those kinds of things. If they've got one that they do, like maybe they do Gallup or I'm trying to think great places to work, or one of those surveys about what it feels like to work there. We'll take those numbers and then look at, have we accelerated those numbers? Have they gone up a certain amount
It's interesting.
after the training?
So it's how someone feels about it objectively,
It
actually
is.
subjectively, how they feel about things going forward.
It is. And it was interesting. The way we measured ROI on our leadership program was the consultant I worked with, a woman named Lisa Edwards. Um, Lisa would ask the people in the group that she did a bunch of surveys before and after, and she surveyed not only the people in the group, but their supervisors, their managers. So whoever they were reporting to also had to weigh in, which meant that people had to really pay attention to what was actually happening because a lot of times we're like, yeah, they seem better, but what? And then the way she got the 113% ROI number was she would ask people what significant difference, and she'd give them ideas. She'd say, like, did you save any money for the organization? Did you make any money for the organization? Did you do things differently? And here's how it would look. She'd say to one guy, what did you do differently? And he'd say, I didn't hire the forklift operator. And that had all the red flags. And she'd say, okay, tell me why that's significant. Well, because I'm desperate and I would have hired the forklift operator, but I know how it ends. Like it never ends well. I end up further backwards and I'm just so desperate for help, I can't find good people. And she would say, then what is the annual salary? And then she would vet that with the HR person. And she'd say to the person offering the example, how much of that decision was based on what you learned in that class? And that guy said 90%. So she took the dollars and cents of, I think at that point, a forklift operator was $30,000 a year. And then so 27 went into the bucket. And then somebody else said, I handed off a report, and that person was a senior person. I handed off a report that gets done once a month. And she said, how much time did that save you? Then it was, what's your salary? And then it was how much of that decision was as a result of that class. And that person said 50%.
Okay.
And that's how we did it. That's how
So
we
I
added
think
up the dollars and
that's
cents.
certainly as valid as any you're going to get
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
What I find interesting about that is that when people are in sessions, no matter what they're learning, if they're paying attention to the speaker, their minds do wander. It's hard to
Hmm.
stay focused. Now, they may wander and come up with an idea that's been kind of brewing in their subconscious for a while, but you mention something they take in actively and it connects to something else that they've been
Yes.
thinking about. And all of a sudden they come together and it goes present. And
Yeah,
it's like, okay, but for being here, would I have gotten there? And the answer is probably not.
exactly.
And I would
Exactly.
also guess, and this has happened to me, I'm hoping it's happened to you. A lot of the best ideas I've had on how to train have come from the people I've trained.
Yes. Yes.
And
Because
I'll
you
say,
start to
well,
see what they need.
yeah, I'll say, Jane, do you agree with what Tom said? How would you approach it? And Jane might give me something. Whoa, Jane, I'm stealing that immediately. Thank
Totally
you very
different.
much. And then you
Yes.
bring that forward. And again, it gets you into that safe space where you
Yes.
can be open and facilitate this open conversation. I assume you don't read from notes or your PowerPoint slides,
No, I do not.
right?
I mean, I have the statistics on the PowerPoint
Sure.
and the things because it's got to come back at the right moment,
Yeah.
but no.
I used to I used to go into meetings and the guy would turn around and read his PowerPoint slides and we'd have them in front of us.
Yeah.
And I would ask at
Yeah.
some point, is your entire presentation on these slides? Oh yeah, fine.
Yeah.
I was gone at the next break. Gotta
Yeah,
go.
usually when they say, well, you're not going to be able to see your note-taking section, I'm like, that's fine. Because even if it was on here, I'd be sharing that screen and I would be looking at whoever was on the virtual thing right here in front of me. I wouldn't be seeing my notes anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you're not someone that impresses me that needs notes.
No, they taught me really well at Vanguard how to facilitate and how to get out of the way and let the gold was in the room.
Yeah.
And whether that's a virtual room or an in-person room, the gold's in the room. People know the answers, or they can figure out how to figure it out if you set it up that way and allow that to happen and don't get in the way of it.
You also probably have found that your best training sessions are ones where you speak the least.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, you and I have discovered a lot of the same things. Although I
yes.
don't have a coaching certification. Now mine came from the School of Hard Knocks. Um,
Well, I let the thing lapse because I
yeah.
just got tired of counting. I was like, you either want to talk to me or you don't. I'm good.
It's funny. I do active coaching of senior financial advisors who are not an easy group, and I'm on the crew at Morgan Stanley and approved at the other firms. And there's literally the only other people out there are either professional coaches or ex-managers.
Yeah,
I'm the only one out there that had a full career as a financial advisor that
yeah,
also happened to learn how to teach. And
yeah,
it's amazing when I talk to some of these other advisors, because basically their problems are pretty similar. They're being taught communication skills,
yeah.
and what they need to learn are business building skills
Right.
because
Right.
it's an outwardly facing business. So let me pose this to you. There is a phenomenon going on in the world of financial advisory, and let's just talk about the big firms for now.
Yeah.
Merrill, UBS, Morgan Stanley, and so on. Among the major firms, there will be 110,000 advisors retiring in the next 5 to 9 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's 1/3 of the advisor force. Now, the lower third are not effective because they're
Hmm.
just getting started. The middle tier, most of these people came in and immediately joined teams with the senior advisors who are now retiring.
Hmm.
When I started, when other people started, it was you got a desk, you got a phone,
Yeah.
and they told you good luck because 9 times out of 10, you weren't there after a year and you really had to work.
Right.
It's a wonderful career if you make it and you can figure it
Yes.
out.
Yes.
So you go through this crucible that requires persistence, it requires grit, it requires empathy, and you just got to keep getting up and doing it no matter what. this next generation that's coming in that's supposedly going to take over the businesses of these senior guys
Mm-hmm.
who are all wealthy, all
Yep.
have done well.
Yep.
They didn't have to do that because the senior guys treat them like foot servants. They help them
Yeah.
with research reports, they help them with whatever, but they have no experience whatsoever in developing business from scratch or even developing a current relationship.
Right.
And the firms are, some of them are ignoring it, and some of them are in full blown panic, and some of them are addressing it, but none of them are doing it well. So, my
Mm-hmm.
question is this: you're dealing in a business where client facing skills are incredibly important. You have a senior person that's making a seven-figure number.
Yep.
He's got a business worth multiple seven figures, and they've got a team.
Yep.
And they've got some assistants on the team. They've got some other advisors on the team. But there's one rainmaker, one person out there building the book. And there's no one following that person that knows how to continue to build the book, which will die from attrition as
Yep.
clients get older, or how to go out and get the younger family members. The skills are not being taught other than, hey, just go out and find business. Just go get it.
Right.
And by the
Yeah.
way, stay here and answer the phones.
Yeah.
How do you square that circle when you're
Yeah.
dealing with something like that?
So there's an industry out there called field service, which I like to call guys in trucks. It is any business that needs to send repair people or installation people and it crosses all kinds of industries. It could be blood and tissue donation one day and HVAC the next. They have figured out in the 6, 7 years that I've been speaking at their conferences that they were really worried initially about the boomer generation getting out of there and then losing all that institutional knowledge. And in that 5 or 6 years, and I believe that COVID accelerated everything, they have had some runoff, but they've also retained some of the senior people. And they've got apprenticeship programs. They go out and get people. They build their own. And I think that financial services is lacking in that a lot. They don't, we don't work on the apprentice model per se. And we think that everybody's just going to get it by osmosis or a class here and there that fills maybe a gap. But classes, I'd be the first person to tell you, training is not the only answer. Like if you don't fix the mess that they're reporting to, your training is going to go astray. So I believe that the financial advisory folks need to figure out what the skills are. And here's the other danger. Boomers think they know it all because our ways have worked for a long time. And my message is always about breaking the rules of leadership because people's expectations and the way they do business has changed. And if we keep trying to force our ways on them, we just end up, going the way of the buggy.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So we've got to figure out what that next generation of service or financial advisory looks like, and then build the skills in people for that. We have to adopt AI, and we have to adopt some of the other things. In the field service industry, they were talking machine learning and AI eons before anybody else was. And now they've adopted like yes and. So I think that the financial business, I thought when I came out, I would be doing business in the industry that I had worked in for 37 years. And I have found that they are not willing to look at doing things a new way because there's still, if I may be so bold, too damn many baby boomers in there, guys mostly, but some women as well, who just want to hang on to what it is and not look at what it needs to be to move forward.
You bring up, there's so many points here to unpack. When we talk about a senior advisor, it might be managing $1 billion of other people's money, and
Yeah.
they're never going to go broke. I mean, they're good at what they do. Well, they're not going to be there forever, and they want to leave their book to someone who's going to care for their clients the same way they did.
Yes.
They may not be able to service their clients in the same fashion or perform the same skill set. I'm dealing with a father who's bringing his 42-year-old daughter in. Daughter is incredibly bright.
Yeah.
Was I think dean of admissions at a large prep school, so really knows how to play at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to this FA, look, she's got to go her own way, and she's not going to be able to do what you do. Well, what
Right.
do you mean? You've been managing people's portfolios with individual stocks for 20 years and you're good at it. You think you're going to teach her? Not going to
Right.
happen. It's not going to happen. He's like, yeah, you're right. So I go through and I look at, okay, what's the end skill we're trying to teach? And
Yeah.
what I found that was effective is you've got to teach things that share a timely and timelessness perspective.
Yes.
You can't
Yes.
just say, well, back in my day, here's how we did it, so do it this way
Right.
today.
Right.
So you get down to these core values and these core principles. I have a course I'm launching in the next couple of days called the Rainmaker Collective. It is
Nice.
a series of 6 or 8 hours of videos that are broken down into 15 or 20-minute bites. It's kind of soup to nuts of what I used to do at Merrill, but it's got activities between each video set.
Mm-hmm.
Finish these videos, go do these activities.
Application. Yep.
I do not want you to believe me. I want your clients to convince you.
Yeah.
Go say this.
Yes.
And then we'll come back in a 30-day or a 40-day period and an 80-day period on a group Zoom call. And I'll say, well, what'd you do? And
Yep.
that's where it really takes place. Having the combination of
Yes.
baseline training with accountability and peer review
Yes.
is how we force change.
And what you call peer review and peer accountability, I would put into the mastermind format for, the entrepreneurial
Yeah,
set out there. But oftentimes it's like, did you do what you said you were going to do before? And I agree with you. If the, all the videos out there in the world aren't going to change anything if you don't apply anything.
no,
And when I was in the learning stages, I had a boss who sat in the back of the training room, wrote down everything I did and said, and then talked about the impact and either said, keep doing it or let's talk about that. Did you intend for it to happen that way? No, I didn't. Do you remember it? Nope. So then let's talk about now in the light of day, let's talk about what you might do if that happens again. And it was that and applying it and actually there's a piece of me that wanted to prove her wrong. And so I sort of I had a time when I said, this is what they're gonna say. And I had one person back in the old paper, check the boxes off
sure.
after the class time. One person said what I said, and the other 29 said, best class ever.
That's awesome. That's
And that's
wonderful.
how I learned.
Yep, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
Same thing, same way. I
Yeah.
used to get stacks of reviews, and the number one comment we had got is we have to listen to these guys because they're doing what we do every single day, and they can explain it in simple terms.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
one of the challenges I always enjoyed in a room full of people that are kind of diverse, both in possibly in income, definitely in intellectual abilities, is to
Hmm.
keep everybody engaged. From
Yes.
the person that is maybe not so quick on the uptake to
Yeah.
the person that always thinks they're the smartest person in the room, which by definition means they're not,
Usually.
and not to get into an argument with anybody.
Right. Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was great fun.
It's about like gaining trust really quickly when you enter a room, again, virtually or in person. It's about gaining that trust quickly. And I think that's good relationship building
Yeah.
skills for any place. Like get that space as safe as possible. And that can be tough with financial advisors because they're pretty go, 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 like get in your face, compete, slay the dragon, tell you you're not good enough to slay the dragon. I mean, there's a lot of like
Yeah,
really
which is why I
aggression in
love
there.
that crowd because that's me. I did
Yeah.
that job at a very high level for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yes, I can
Um,
fight the good fight.
and they can throw. I bring it on. Just look, say
Right.
anything you want. I just tell them flat out.
Yeah.
In college, I was a hockey official, and then I was an FA for 40 years. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
Right.
Just shout it out. If I'm wrong,
Argue.
I'll admit it. If you're wrong, I'll
Yes.
make fun of you in
Yes.
front of everybody, and that kind of loosens them up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I like to
Yeah.
get those conversations going. I may say
Have
something,
to.
and people are, "Well, what do you mean?" I'll say, "Well, that made no sense. Tell me why that statement doesn't make sense."
Hmm.
And then tell me how many people have actually said that, and they start going.
Yeah.
So there's just so many ways to do it. Are you having fun?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of the skills that we use in the work we do, they're trainable skills. It's just that you gotta be able to coach somebody on what that is and reinforce what they're doing right as much
Yeah.
as reinforce what they're, point out what they might not be doing as well as they could be, or, getting a different result.
I agree with you that you can train those skills. The one skill I found difficult to train, unless
Mhm.
someone had a natural affinity, was training the trainers.
You can do that. I was a master trainer at Vanguard, so that meant that I trained other trainers on how to do it. You have to
Yeah.
be really comfortable herding cats,
Yeah.
as you mentioned before, and it's really about having, sometimes trainers look like they're not embracing it. I fight with material. If I don't like what I'm hearing, I fight with it. And it sounds like I'm fighting you if you're the trainer of it.
Yeah.
And I don't get bothered by that. It's kind of just what you pointed out. It's like, bring it and let's discuss it. Let's pull it apart and put it back together again. Now stand up and do it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, it is
But
hurting cats.
yeah, you can tell the best ones, they're having fun up there doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Lori, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the
Same,
time.
Gary.
What's next for you? What's next on the
Oh
horizon
gosh.
for Aligned?
Well, let's see. We are I head off to do some speaking slash teaching next week. I'll be in Nashville. We are working with some of the firms that I've been speaking to at conferences. A lot of tech. We do male-dominated businesses. And so for the most part, and we do others as well, but we do a lot of male-dominated industries. And there's a need for training. There's a need for the soft skills, the leadership skills, the professional development. I like to call them power skills instead of soft, but it's the interpersonal kinds of things. And it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing
Sure.
it. So we're helping people figure that out. That's
How do
where
people find you? Somebody wants to hire you. How do they find you?
if somebody wants to find us, they can go on our website, alignedatwork.com. They can also email me, Laurie, Laurie, at alignedatwork.com. They can email me directly, and I am all over LinkedIn. And it's just the linkedin.com/in/Laurie Battaglia, all spelled out. So there's a number of ways to get a hold of me, but we do a lot of LinkedIn lives that we call wake up call lives and talk about whatever the month is that we're celebrating. So like we're going to talk to someone on Thursday about the Hispanic Heritage Month.
Sure.
And next month it'll be ADHD, and the following month it'll be Indigenous life, because I do work in a lot of Indigenous organizations as well.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Laurie Battaglia, CEO of Aligned at Work, and all around cool individual. I think her and I smile around a lot of the same things because we share a lot of common experiences.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in today. This has been Gary Cinderbrand on If the Public Only Knew. We will see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to If the Public Only Knew. Don't forget to follow the show and share it with anyone who's ready for the real raw stories behind the business successes. Join Gary next time for another powerful conversation that will leave you inspired and ready to take action.